This is the 91st minute.
The 91st minute derby took place at the Emirates Stadium on Sunday. Arsenal bested Manchester United 3-1 in a match with a Danish debut, late rice frying, and incorrect VAR angles. To the victors go the spoils. So Milo, how are you feeling about that match?
I feel much better about the start of the game. Something I wanted to see. I've talked about it every week of the season so far. I felt like we hadn't started games well. At home was a concern, especially after conceding early goals. So I was happy to not see that. And I thought we came out the blocks looking really good. I was very, you'd expect the home team to have more of the ball. We did for the most part. I was getting a bit frustrated with the lack of finish in that first half, and even the lack of sort of final play to get it in a good spot. And then of course Rashford opening the scoring, who by the way I thought was United's best player by some margin for me. I thought Rashford was really, really good. Looked dangerous on the ball every time, and got a classic counter attack. I think it was the first shot on goal, on target at least. May even have been the first shot on goal. But at that point in my head, I'm like, oh great, here we go. It's going to be one of those classic smash and grab games. Because I felt like United, especially early on, I felt like they definitely were setting up to try to. It was somewhat conservative, I thought, from them, and obviously the counter-attack was the plan. At least that's what it looked like to me, and obviously we'll hear from the United boys shortly. But yeah, I was very, very happy that we responded straight away, and whether that's, United switched off a little bit right after scoring, which can happen. We've seen it in football a million times. Odegaard banging it home. I was extremely happy with that. After that, the game was always on a knife edge, I thought, and I think the tie has a little bit more spice back in it now than it did have for a few years, which is good. That's good for us as fans, and it's good for neutrals as well, because it definitely it will definitely make the return fixture at Old Trafford should be a spicy one after what we saw yesterday. Havertz missed an absolute sitter, by the way, 7 yards out, mishit the ball. I mean, just don't be in the box. He did some other stuff in the game very well, but just get out the box, get out the way. Eddie was there waiting for that. Just get out the way, mate. Like, you're doing some other things brilliantly, but the offensive side of your game, for me, it's not good enough, and it's something that needs to improve. Speaking, obviously we've talked about Havertz coming into the team, what it does to the formation. I was extremely happy to see us play with a more regular defense, Gabriel coming back in, and I thought that's one of the reasons why off the start we looked comfortable, because it was much more familiar. Zinchenko was there, White on the right, it just felt more familiar, and then as I say, moving back to the Havertz miss, after that Saka got played through and shot straight at Onana. That was another massive chance. So at that point, it was still 1-1, and I'm like, we've missed two massive chances, and we've talked about this on the show so many times, that those fine margins, those chances in these games, if you don't take them, they are the most costly, right? It's so costly because it is just such a fine margin, and it could easily have ended 1-1. It could easily have ended 2-1 United, the way it went on. I think obviously Declan Rice, who for me was my man of the match, I thought he was outstanding again. He's been really, really good so far this season. I thought he was absolutely outstanding, good in the tackle, good at interceptions, reading the plays in the midfield. I thought he was brilliant, and he deserved a goal to round off a really good display. And I mean, I know there's some controversy. For me, obviously you guys, you'll get to say your piece, and we'll go through it. For me, it was kind of 6 of one, half a dozen the other. Gabriel ended up on the floor. I do want to ask you two, and I will end my spiel with a question for you two, which you can either answer straight away or later, whatever you prefer. because I am curious as to what was going on with United there. So Declan puts it away 2-1, and then obviously, that took the wind out the sails, and then the Jesus, the counter-attack. Lovely finish by Jesus. I don't want that to go with everything else that happened. There's the Garnacho offside goal as well, which to me, I don't know what he's talking about, the angles. I mean, we've talked about VAR. We've talked about it all the time. It looks offside from what we're being shown by VAR, so there you go. But the Jesus goal, I just thought was a lovely finish from him. Really, really nice skill, and I love to see it. And he needs that for us in other games. He needs that. He needs that confidence boost coming back from injury. Always question marks over the goals he scores. And I understand how these two feel a bit, because last year I sat here around the same time of the year, and we just lost 3-1 at Old Trafford. Martinelli had a goal ruled out that ended up, the refs came out and said it shouldn't have been, a blah blah blah. So I understand how they feel a little bit. My question to you guys, and obviously feel free to talk about everything else you want, but why did Ten Hag bring on Maguire and Evans? Like, I know Martinez and Lindelof were both on yellows. So is that the reason, or was it an injury? Because I just was like, why did they come
both
on?
Injured.
So they both picked up an injury. Okay.
Yeah. So Martinez hurt himself when he fouled Nketiah, I think it was. He overstretched his hamstring and was like, I can't sprint, so I've got to come off. And then Lindelof picked up a knee knock and had to come off.
Okay, because they were both booked as well, so I wondered if it was. I wasn't sure. I didn't pick up on the injury side of things. I wasn't.
No, it was confirmed after that it was 2 injuries. Yeah.
Okay, because obviously I know for United fans it's a bit of a meme defense to end the game with. So I was just surprised. Ten Hag brought them on, and I just like, why did he do that? So injuries, fair enough. Yeah, that's it from me, guys. I mean, I'm. There's nothing more for me to say. We got 3 points. I'm stoked, and we have an international break where I can relax a little bit.
Yeah. Cart, you go. Go on, Cart.
No, go ahead. Go, please, Culture. Go ahead.
Okay. I thought it was I can be calm in these situations. I think I'm old enough. I've seen enough football. I can look at things objectively, and it's like I thought it was a very good tactical battle. I think the way both managers set up, I think Ten Hag knew we weren't in a position to actually go toe-to-toe with Arsenal. I think he knew that Arsenal had a more complete team. I don't know if you can argue better players all around the park, but definitely had a more complete system and team and how they wanted to play. And it was interesting because the one time, I agree with you, Milo, I think Declan Rice was probably the best player on the pitch. For the entirety of the 90 minutes or 101 or whatever it ended up being played.
112, wasn't it? I think
112.
I don't know. It would seem like a lot.
I feel like he was. And the one time Arsenal conceded was actually when Declan Rice pressed too high up the pitch out of position. That is a very good video by Tifo, who you guys know in the Discord I'm a big fan of, around what we learned from Arsenal v Man United. And it was an interesting watch. After the game, I didn't watch the game and then watch that video from Tifo straight away. I slept on it, woke up, watched it this morning, had a bit of a chill. But it was interesting that the shape Arsenal had for pressing, the one time it went wrong, Man United scored, basically, is what it was. Declan Rice was caught out of position once. He went and pressed high up into the left-hand side of the box against Wan-Bissaka, completely out of position, and we intercepted a poor pass from Kai Havertz and launched a counter-attack, and Rashford scored a good goal. I think 1-1 would have been a fair scoreline. I don't think there was enough in it for either team to really have a convincing argument to say they won. The stats sort of prove that. The Arsenal XG was through the roof because of the 2 late chances they had. Gabriel Jesus one is something like 0.85 of an expected goal because he's one-on-one with the keeper inside or just outside the 6-yard box. But it's like... It was interesting. We were a bit too slow from a United point of view at times, but we were trying to draw Arsenal out and try and get Arsenal to press us. Casemiro dropped in as a sort of half-back in between the 2 centre-backs and wanted to pick the ball up a little bit more and try and get us progressing through that way, but Arsenal weren't being drawn out, so it just meant we kept the ball around the back. As I said, from a point of view as liking the tactics and a tactician side of football, I thought it was really entertaining. I thought it was a really good game. It had the bite to it, like you said. and it was good. I don't think United deserved a 3-1 loss. I don't get the Onana hate. I mean, a deflection from someone who's a yard in front of you. If you're going to save that, it's normally luck. If you're going to save that one at the end from Declan Rice's goal. There was an interesting thing about the corners, though, is that Man United always left Declan Rice free. We overloaded the front post to stop the flick-ons, and we always left one man free at the back post, which was Declan Rice. For every single corner. It's in the Tifo video as well. And Arsenal clocked onto that in the second half, and there's a change in how Arsenal set up their corners in the second half, where normally it was Declan Rice free at the back post with one other Arsenal player who ran in. And then in the second half, what they did is they had Declan Rice free at the back post and 2 Arsenal players in front of him acting as blockers. Whether it's legal or not, it doesn't matter, but that's what they did. And they adapted that and changed it. Now, I think it is a foul on Johnny Evans, because Gabriel is very clearly stopping him going to attack the ball. But I can understand why it's not given, because I think it's one of those, give those every part of the pitch. You're never going to not have a foul in the game. It's always going to be foul, 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 foul. So I can understand why it's not given. But I don't know. I don't... It's disappointing to lose. It's very disappointing to lose in the manner we did. It's incredibly disappointing to lose after you think you've won, when Garnacho scores. I can't argue with that VAR angles nonsense. I don't think it's... If the lines are drawn like that, like they have been since VAR's been in existence, then it's offside. Like you can't argue with it. I can argue with VR being shit, and I think we've touched on this in the Discord. That'll probably be a conversation during another international break when we need something to talk about. But I think overall, Arsenal played well. I think United played well. I liked Højlund coming on. He offered a lot. He was aggressive. He was really fast.
He was
pacey.
I was going to bring him up, and I forgot in my bit, but I thought he's going to be a real handful for defenders, man. He really is, because strong, fast, like he's going to be a handful.
The difference between Martial up front and him was obvious to see straight away as soon as he came on.
Yeah, and I didn't touch on that incident with him and Gabriel. I mean, I think he didn't get the penalty because he grabs Gabriel's arm, and I think that's the only reason it wasn't given, honestly.
Yeah, I think obviously that got checked by VAR as well, and I think the same. I think if it was given, I could understand why, but if it was given against Man United, I would have been annoyed, because it was both of them holding each other, right?
I think when Gabriel's arm come across, there's your contact. If Højlund had just gone down, he wins a penalty there, I think. But his arms go around Gabriel's, and as soon as you do that, it's like, okay, I'm going to hold on to him and then go down. It gave them a reason not to give it.
I agree. But my argument for that would be the block on Johnny Evans for the goal.
See, I've seen two angles of that though, and Evans is all hands as well. It's a bit of 6 of one, half a dozen the other, that one, personally. But I understand.
That is my rose-tinted glasses. But
I was thinking maybe would the argument be like obstruction, maybe? But like it's you don't see obstruction given. Like, when was the last time you saw obstruction given in a football game?
Yeah, I know.
It's been a while.
And it really annoys me.
It used to happen a lot, and you never see it now.
In the corner. That should be obstruction when people stick the ball down in the corner. Anyway, let's bring Cart in. Let's bring Cart in.
I mean, what is there to say, really? What is there to say? Arsenal.
I thought you were gonna have something ready.
Arsenal is not as good as we all thought they were. They're just not at the same level they're playing at last year. There's something missing. I don't know if maybe they'll have to develop it, right? Maybe there's something to develop, but they're definitely not building off of anything. I mean, I don't think this Havertz thing is gonna really work too well. Mikel Arteta making some outrageous comments after the game, talking about conquering women. I mean, I don't know if that's the type of manager you'd want at your.
What?
Did you guys didn't hear that?
I didn't hear this. No.
He was talking about how he had to conquer his wife to. I mean, after all the Rubiales stuff, I don't know if you want to bring that up.
Okay, first of all, he was talking about winning her over in terms. Oh my God, I can't believe you're going there, dude. This is the most pathetic.
He said
you've ever done, mate. Honestly, this is the most pathetic attempt Cartwheel has ever done, guys. This is honestly, mate. What a thing to try and do. Honestly, that is the most thing you've ever said on this show.
I'm just saying, he's
Absolute. I don't even know why I sit here opposite you if you're going to do like that, because that's graceful.
Hey, I didn't say it. Arteta said it. I'm just repeating what he said.
No, you're taking it out of context, and you know what you're doing, mate. You know what you're doing. You know.
Okay.
And it's
All right, man. Relax.
No, it isn't all right. That's outrageous, mate. That is. Don't do that.
All right.
Stick to the football, Cart.
Yeah,
All right,
stick to the football.
I think your wingers were pretty ineffective. I think Anthony and Rashford did well to drop back and defend well. I didn't really feel Arsenal were very threatening at all during the entire game. I thought they were kind of, I don't know. I didn't feel either United played much better than before, or you know.
I think we had a system. I think we had a system set up to deal with it, and I think we were so intent on not. I don't want to say not losing the game, but I think that's what our attitude was. We knew if we got a point out of that game or nicked a goal, like we did with Rashford, then that puts us in a good position. And I think I haven't seen Saka or Martinelli, I think, got a bit of space and he did really well in certain situations, but I don't think I've seen Saka marshalled out of a game so much than he had this season or maybe last season. But I agree with what you said about Kai Havertz. I think that's the it's like they're shoehorning Kai Havertz into a role that he can't do, or it isn't working. I don't know why they're sticking with it when you could bring in, I don't know. I mean, you could probably play Trossard in that role and he'd play better than Havertz, I think. It's a strange one, but...
And that's another thing. Look at what Arsenal had coming off the bench as well. They had Jesus coming off the bench. They had Trossard coming off the bench. They had even Fabio Vieira, who did really well last week. They had him coming off the bench. And if you look on the other side, who do we have coming off the bench? We got 18-year-old Garnacho, Johnny Evans, Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, who's still in a job. You know, we tried to offload him, right? All these things will be annoying them. And then we had this
on the bench. McTominay.
Oh yeah, McTominay was sick. Sorry. So I don't even know who we had in midfield cover. I don't know.
Dan Gore. We had Dan Gore. The under 21 player. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, how do you? I mean, with taking all that into account, I think we did pretty well, and we almost won the game. You know, which is just insane. I don't know. Like when you think about it, if that Garnacho goal goes in, obviously this is hypothetical, and what are Arsenal fans saying when they lose that game? You know, I know it's a hypothetical, and you can't really get too deep into it, and it's just 3 points and it's over. But you know, we're talking about it. It's like you can't really do. I mean, if we nick that game 2-1, what is Arsenal saying? We got to put the game away, or we need to take our chances. You know, those couple, that Saka chance, that Havertz chance, like it's such a fine margin. That's why I'm not like, obviously it's at the time it's rough, right? That disallowed goal and then bang right the other way. But when you think about it, it was just a very fine margin. We could have won that game 2-1, and we're not even playing well. You know, it's like that gives me a lot of hope for the rest of the season. Like it's like just easy. Like it's like to me, I thought we were gonna get Arsenal were gonna have the possession as they did, and they were gonna create some chances, right? I think Anthony and Rashford did really well to track back. We nullified their threat on the wings, and they couldn't do anything through the middle. And we prevented a smash. Like we got to go on the break, and that's
it's a tough one. I don't think either team was at their best. That's the issue there, is that I don't think us. I agree. I don't think Arsenal were playing as well as they did last year, and they have other gears to go through. But I also think we're not, and I think that added to the element of the tactical battle and the nitty gritty and the battle in midfield and things like that. I think that added to it. It's that thing of if Garnacho's goal had stood and we had won 2-1, I would expect level-headed Arsenal fans, because I can't speak for all of them, but level-headed Arsenal fans to be a bit like me. Like, it's disappointing that we lost, but I don't think we deserve to lose. I don't know. It's hard. I don't want to. I mean, we've got an Arsenal fan here. So
I'm pretty sure exactly what I said last year when we lost 3-1 at Old Trafford.
Yeah, and it's like I'm annoyed because we've lost. I'm not annoyed because of the performance or because of how the players played, and we could have nicked the winner. And it felt like it's a move in the right direction. But one of my concerns is that Arsenal scored the equaliser with Odegaard. Was lovely, very quick, one-touch football, which is what Man United have been susceptible against at the back for ages. We just can't seem to react quick enough to quick passing moves that go through us. Once we got when we got into a defensive shape and we got there, we were. I agree with you, Cart. I think Arsenal struggled to break us down. I think the Saka chance was the main one. Havertz swinging a left foot. I think that came from a quick passing move as well. But it's still that defensive shape. When a quick pass goes through our midfield, and then it's quick passing all round, and we can't deal with it. Like Arsenal's goal for Odegaard was, I think everyone had one touch. I think it was 2 touches for Martinelli, and that was the only person that had 2 touches, or whoever did the cutback. I can't remember who it was, but towards Odegaard, it was.
Do you feel like Amrabat helps that out at all?
I think so. I think so, and I think there's a lot to be said with how long we were linked to Amrabat. I mean, it was about a week into the transfer window that the rumours were that United were going to sign Amrabat. For it to be done on deadline day just takes the piss. Like, I don't understand how that drags on. For how long's the transfer window? 2 months? 2.5 months? Like, it's ridiculous, right? To think if he's been targeted by the manager and the board are trying to get it done, or the technical director, or the whoever it is, director of football, is trying to get it done. Just go and get it done. Like, even if it is a loan to buy, like we've eventually got it on. It just thinks of Fellaini, right? Even under Moyes, when it was like, we want Marouane Fellaini. Oh, okay, we're now going to go and pay like 8 more million than we have to because we're going to get him on deadline day instead. Just go and get the deal done. It's infuriating. But I think he does make a difference, yeah.
Okay.
Even McTominay, I think, would have made a difference. So. But
what you're talking about getting through our midfield is Eriksen and Casemiro, not the most mobile.
Yeah.
You know, once you break that line, that's why we kind of have to. I think we have to sit back. We can't press. You know, we can't really press with those two. So, you know, we have to sit back and we have to play with the squad we have. Right? We can't. You know, we obviously have issues with the transfers market and our transfers in general, which we'll probably talk about a little later. But, you know, I'm very, very happy with the way, especially the way Rashford and Antony dropped back and helped Dalot and Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka shut down Martinelli. You know, Martinelli's obviously his speed was still a factor, but I don't think he got anything past Wan-Bissaka. Dalot did pretty well against Saka. When Arsenal started doing combinations, it became a little dicey. But when Rashford dropped back into that defensive shape, I thought we stopped him pretty well. You know, I don't know. I didn't feel either we got. I mean, we've gotten much better since the start of the season, or since last season. Arsenal just aren't firing on all cylinders yet.
Results like this will help, though.
That's the thing. My worry with Arsenal is that they're not firing on all cylinders and they're still winning. They've shown it against Palace. I think Fulham, they could have won that game. They've beaten us. They weren't at their best, and that's a sign of champions is always what they say, right? If you don't play well and win.
The international break comes really at the worst time after a result like that.
Yeah.
You want to continue on and play next week, but
agreed. Yeah,
it is what it is. I mean, touching on the Martinelli point, Wan-Bissaka did have a really good game against him. The only thing that Martinelli was able to do consistently was win corners against him. Many of the corners that we had, especially in the first half, were on that side. If the delivery had been better, I think it would have led to more chances for us. I was quite disappointed with some of the corner delivery and free kick deliveries.
Just on that, I do think Wan-Bissaka lacks a little bit of football intelligence. He's obviously a very, very good defender and winning the ball in tackles and things like that. But I do think he doesn't think about where he's winning or blocking across or winning that tackle. Because a lot of the time he waits and it goes right to the byline. And you can be dangerous from corners. They're not as good as people think they are. But I do think there are times. I mean, I shouldn't really correct him. He's a Premier League defender. I'm not. He knows what he's doing. But like, I feel like there's times when he's so good in the slide tackle, he could do it higher up the pitch and give a throw in, rather than wait until it seems to be he matches them pace for pace and then puts a tackle in at the last minute near the byline. Or I guess it's because he knows that's when they're going to cut back. But it is one of those things that it does annoy me a little bit.
Well, I think that's.
But he had a very good game. So.
I think that's an area Martinelli has to improve is his weak foot, because I think that's how they've just scouted him, right? They just know keep Martinelli as a weak foot, don't let him dribble by you, right? Don't let him get by you, and that's what Wan-Bissaka is doing, just showing him onto the left foot and not jumping in, because Martinelli has crazy. He'll outpace Wan-Bissaka. I mean, Wan-Bissaka can recover, but on pace, Martinelli's got him. You know, Martinelli's lightning.
Yeah, that's
quick,
true.
So. Yeah, so.
I wasn't disappointed in Martinelli's contribution, as I say, because I felt like he still was creating opportunities through corners and things like that, and the one or two times that he does do the cutback, and I also think he supplied Odegaard right for the goal.
I think it was him that got the pass into Odegaard.
Martinelli on the left and cut back to the edge of the penalty area for Odegaard to rifle it home. So I was pretty happy with Martinelli's performance. I mean, you know, if you're playing Arsenal, I expect teams, like I expect Saka to get nullified some games, because he is so often the focal point of the attack. You know, and you know what you're going to do. You won't stop him throughout the entire game, but if you can limit his opportunities, right, that's what a good defense is going to look at. Limit his opportunities, limit Martinelli's opportunities. You know what Arsenal are looking to do. The difference is now, you know, we can go a bit more central with Rice and Odegaard and Eddie. Eddie's been really good too. Very physical presence. You know, he's not going to be. I thought he worked really, really hard in that game, and he's probably going to come.
Sorry to interrupt you. I was going to ask about Nketiah, because I feel like he's done enough to say that Jesus shouldn't just come back in. Obviously, Jesus is your leading striker, but
then Eddie can't do what Gabby did at the end, right? And this is the difference.
Imagine having a sub that does do that after Nketiah runs them tired.
No, for sure. There's definitely a thought to that, and maybe that's something you do when the striker's towards the end of his tenure, maybe, or something. But
yeah, okay.
for the most part, I think you play your best forward. Like I think Eddie is perfect for certain games, and there are games when Jesus is ineffective. You know, there is. I mean, he's just coming back from injury too. There was no need to rush him back. If Eddie added goals, like more goals that he created himself to his game, which is easy to say, but if it was that easy, then we would all four of us would do it, and we would all play professionally. So, like Eddie, if Eddie could add that to his game, he'd be a great forward. You know, like he's got pace, strengths. He has those things. It's just the finishing. You know, he's an opportunist goal scorer, not a creative goal scorer, I think.
I feel like Gabriel Jesus always tacks on like that extra goal. You know, he never like I can't remember him scoring like a game-winning. He always gets that, you know, fourth or fifth, you know, goal.
I'll have to try and find it and put it in the Discord. There was a stat around that when he was at Man City.
Well, I mean,
point winning goals that he scored were very minimal at Man City. But that's because it might just be Man City, right? And they have so many good players.
His start at Arsenal before the knee injury was actually very good, and he was scoring goals. He went on a little bit of a drought, but I also think part of that is just the way he's going to play. You know, like it's
his movement as well.
A lot of dropping deep.
So much space for Saka. Yeah.
Well, the reason I thought of that is because they showed the stat in 57 games where he's scored, they've never lost. Or either Arsenal or the Premier League team he's played for, they've never lost. Yeah. They showed that on the feed I was watching. Should we talk about VAR a little bit, or I mean,
just one thing before VAR. To Milo, question to Milo. When does Raya come in? Because Ramsdale got a big hand to that shot from Rashford, and I think when you're a goalkeeper getting a hand like that, I argue should have saved it. If he gets a strong, it was hit really hard. It was a well hit shot. He got a really strong hand to it, and then I know it was disallowed, but Garnacho's goal, I also think the keeper could do better for that one as well.
Okay, so for both of those, the first one, I would put the blame on the defenders. I forget who it was.
Okay.
I think it was Saliba and somebody else. Not only did they, in my opinion, not close down Rashford enough, because you know what he's capable of, and you watch videos, you watch footage of games, you know what Rashford's capable of. He scored against us last year.
Ben White, and
so
he's trained against him for England.
But it was Ben White and one other, it might have been Saliba, it might have been Gabriel, I'm not sure. But anyway, like both of those guys, I felt like they sat off him too long. At some point, as a centre back, you play centre back, even at amateur level. At some point, you have to have the commitment to go for the ball, even if it means you give away a free kick, right? That might be a consequence. At the best hope is Rashford turns and looks for a pass instead of that shot, right? It's those split second things, and both of them to sit off is a mistake, in my opinion. And that enabled Rashford to get a shot away, which was partially hidden. His body movement was partially hidden by those two defenders in front of Ramsdale. So for me, getting a hand to it is probably the best he could have hoped for. I know what you're saying though. And then for the one-on-one, look, if you're a professional footballer and you're through one-on-one,
you should score.
You should be scoring. Doesn't matter who's in net. You should be scoring, right? And I think Garnacho took it very well. I mean, I said he would be my player to watch or whatever it was this season for United as well. Yeah, when he went through, I mean, at first I thought he was on, but man, I don't know if you've watched that in slow. Gabriel is either very, very, very clever or very, very lucky, because he stops, leaning back like that. It's almost, if you watch it like that, it looks like he's done it on purpose, which is
he's done it on purpose, but he's lucky with his head.
It's
because he still bows his head forward.
it's incredibly brave then. But either way it worked. But on that one, I don't blame Ramsdale for either. I still think for Ramsdale to be dropped, he has to make an error, and we've seen them from him. I think when we get an error, like a proper error, hopefully we won't get one, but when we get a proper standout error, that to me is when I think we'll see Raya get the nod the next game. That's how I see it unfolding. Obviously, I'm not Arteta. I have no idea. That's what I see.
I imagine he'll get a couple errors. Sorry, I think Ramsdale will get a couple errors. I don't think it'll be so clear. They wouldn't do that to him. They'll give him a couple.
I mean, he's already had one earlier in earlier games, maybe. Questionable, right? There's questions. Obviously, there's questions about him, or we wouldn't have got Raya, right?
Yeah. I also think there's that, but also training. Raya will he has a different skill set, so he'll learn off that as well. I think the Ten Hag always talks about a competition for places, right? There has to be competition. Speaking of competition, Sancho was left off the team sheet, which I wanted to ask you guys that.
I wanted to ask you guys about that before we ended this segment. So Sancho publicly coming out. Sancho publicly coming out saying what Ten Hag said wasn't true. Like, it doesn't look good for the Sancho United era, does it?
No, it's
375 grand a week.
It's really interesting because Ten Hag's comments was that he's not training at the level that Man United need him to train, and Sancho's rebuttal is, I'm training every day as well as I can with all these good players. Football seems to be the only one of a few professions, I guess, where your manager can be like, you're shit and you're not training very well, so I'm not going to play you. And if the player goes, yes I am, I'm training my hardest, then the manager can just go, that's not good enough. At the end of the day, it's the manager's opinion, right? If he's not picking you because he thinks you're not training hard enough and you think you are, then if you're not impressing the manager, it's the manager's call.
Rumours he's been late to training as well, which he got fined for at Dortmund, I believe. I was reading about it earlier. Yeah.
Southgate apparently left him out of some squads or he didn't start him in certain games because of his training as well. That's rumors.
And I think it makes it a bit harder with how, because he has had mental health issues, Jadon Sancho, and he admitted it and he's spoken about it, and Man United helped him and Erik ten Hag helped him last year. You just hope it's not a sort of, well, they've helped me once, so they'll help me again, and they'll help me again, and they'll help me again, and they'll help me again. There becomes a point, and it's harsh to say it, but there becomes a point in football as a profession where, if you're not good enough to play for a club like Man City, Man United, or you don't have the attitude as for an Arsenal or a Spurs, or these top teams, that the club will give up on you. They'll just say, if you're not going to put the effort in training when we've tried to help, then see you later. But yeah, sorry, Cart, you're going to say something.
Well, I was going to just say that the players are used to soft, this kind of a soft approach, like you said, the club will coddle them and this that. Ten Hag doesn't he means business. What is it? He dropped Rashford for disciplinary issues. He dropped Garnacho for the same issues. He dropped Ronaldo for the same issues for not
sold Ronaldo.
Sold Ronaldo ultimately, right? For not pressing and whatnot. He dropped Maguire, obviously. He dropped De Gea in fantastic fashion, and picked up Onana. Right? He's cutthroat. He dropped Wan-Bissaka for Dalot for a long time. And then when Dalot had a bad game, he dropped Dalot immediately and put Wan-Bissaka in for a long time. Now he's signing Hollywood and telling Martial that he's not good enough.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a potential loan with an option to buy, or just a straight out purchase from Saudi Arabia for Jadon Sancho. Their window's still open. They've got another 2 weeks. It's a big money move. Potentially that. If not, then I can't see him playing for us in the very near future. He may get a League Cup run or FA Cup game or something, but it's
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Ten Hag saying that, to be honest. I think he was a little tilted from the result. That's that looking back on it, that's how it seems, but also maybe that's how frustrated he is with Sancho. To the point where he really doesn't figure into his plans as far as the attitude he wants to see on the pitch. He might have all the talent, as I'm on record saying I think Sancho does have all the talent, but he just doesn't have the attitude factor to make it to the top level. I don't. The more especially after this, it doesn't feel like he does, and it doesn't seem like this is gonna light a fire under him. It doesn't feel like that. But maybe it will, but it doesn't feel like that.
It came across from Ten Hag as very Mourinho-esque, and I mean that negatively, not positively, where he was throwing a person under the bus in an interview straight after a bad result.
That he didn't
and
even
it's always easier to throw. That he didn't even. And I was going to say, it's even easier to throw someone under the bus when they haven't played. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but. I agree with you, Carl. I don't think Ten Hag's a manager to back down now that he's said that publicly, so I can't see it ending well for Jadon Sancho.
Like the whole referee thing, he got this, that wrong. Fine, I'm cool with that actually. Like I'm okay with that from the manager. But this is taking it to the next step. You heard Ferguson do this stuff all the time. This call, that call, that call. Get the attention off the players. Mourinho does it as well. Get the attention onto him, type of thing. But now he went and put it all on Sancho as well, which is not exactly what we've seen in the past. This soon after a heated loss. But yeah, Ten Hag I've never seen him that ticked off. He was pissed. You could tell he was pissed. Sorry, I'm psychoanalyzing again, but I felt like he was extremely pissed, and so, rightly so. Like he was, the victory was in his hands.
I feel like let's try and bring it back to the game a little bit. I just Hoff as a neutral in this, sort of a neutral in this fixture. You hate United and you probably hate Arsenal a bit more. So, what did you think of Højlund coming on? Obviously, Milo said he looks like he's going to be a handful for defenders, but I'm interested from a person looking at the game.
I think it looked like, and I guess obviously United believe that he has the potential to fulfill that price tag. I think he has buckets of potential. He looked threatening, like pacey. I love a pacey striker. The only problem I have with that is, and you can see it with Martial right now, once he starts getting, if he starts getting soft tissue injuries, his calling card is shot. So can he be a well-rounded, not just the pacey, I'll outrun you everywhere, and can he add more to his game, because he still has plenty of time to do so. So if and when he starts getting a hamstring pull here, a calf strain there, things like that, can he still be effective when returning from those? That would be my only concern. But if he doesn't have any injuries, I think the sky's the limit. I think he looks really good.
Cool.
Yeah, his now I'm on record, so I'll go ahead and repeat this. I think Gabriel is a slight weak link in Arsenal's team. I'll say the three: Ramsdale, Gabriel, Martinelli. That's it. I think the rest are okay. I think they're also very good. I'm just the weakest of the bunch, Milo. No, I'm not saying they're shit or anything, but if Højlund had Gabriel for 90 minutes, he would have destroyed him. I think the way Gabriel, just the way they matched up at that point, you could say maybe Gabriel's lacking fitness. Fine, maybe he is. But the way he bodied Gabriel and what he'll do to other Premier League defenders at this point,
That's especially
fine.
We'll just put Saliba on him.
Especially with
solved.
defenders getting, more technical, less defensive minded, this type of striker like Ferguson, like Evan Ferguson, like even a throwback to like Solomon Rondon, Awoniyi from Nottingham Forest, like these big guys that just give center backs just problems. They get on your body and they don't let you move, and they're afraid to let you by, so they give you the ball, let you have your back to goal with the ball. When Højlund gets settled, I think you'll see a lot more fluid attacks from United, because that hold up play is pretty big. Martial's like a deep lying forward, like almost like, I don't know, Benzema or something. Like he likes to drop back, pick up the ball, Kane-ish, and distribute or whatever. So we haven't had a striker that's like, playing off the last man, maybe since Cavani or something. I don't know. And also young. So I think it does add a lot of stuff. You're seeing Rashford, with a lot more freedom on the wing. I just think, with Martial dropping deep, the Arsenal center backs had it pretty easy for most of the game. And when Højlund came in, you saw him mark up. And
I was complimentary of Højlund because, I can compliment rival teams' players without any issue whatsoever, unlike some other people on this panel. And Højlund may well
that's no fun. That's no fun.
Højlund may well have been a handful for Gabriel, but there's not a lot of reference point at this time, right? So when we play it again, assuming Højlund stays fit, and then you see how he adapts to the Premier League, and you see the way United use him, he's coming off the bench for his first appearance at United. Yeah. He's keen to impress. Like I just don't think you could judge. I'm not going to judge Gabriel on a performance. I mean, fuck me, we won the game 3-1, 3 fucking points. Come on, you beauties, fucking up. Anything else?
Yeah, barely. You barely won 3 points again.
See, I didn't do that because I don't do that, but now I'm lowering myself to your standards.
What do you mean, my standards?
VAR. Let's go to VAR. Right.
Why?
Okay, let's move on.
Milo doesn't talk about that. It's below his standards to talk about VAR, right, Milo?
It's just shit. That's why.
Mate, we talk about VAR every week.
I know. We gotta stop doing that. It's below your standards.
I never said that.
Did you see Ian Wright's tweet about VAR?
No. What did he say?
He said I think it was right after or during the Arsenal match. He said no time to talk about goals, quality of play, or key moments, because all we discuss in the studio is VAR decisions. Boring. Just incident after incident, taking the enjoyment out of the game.
Yeah.
So as far as like him doing to a more prominent extent to what we do, I mean, he's tired of talking about VAR as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a nonsense. It's a nonsense.
We've all seen our teams. You know, we've all been unhappy with VAR decisions, right? All of us at some point or another.
Yeah,
and we will be again, maybe even in the next game. Like, I don't know. You know, I wasn't. Obviously, if your team is on the end of a VAR decision that you don't agree with, then, you know, you're going to be more upset than the person whose team was on the right end of it.
It's
you know.
I think I'm even past that with VAR. I think it's even the fact that, like, even when Declan Rice scored, it's the annoyance of not knowing if that's a goal or not for minutes. So for sometimes 5-6 minutes. Like,
I don't mind the delay as long as they get it right.
I hate the delay. As an Arsenal fan, Google. I think it was 5 Live. Google the Arsenal fan that phoned into 5 Live after Garnacho scored and it was disallowed. He was still like, "I fucking hate VAR because it's just ruined." Like I've got the emotion of us losing that game, and then I get another wave of emotion of us still in the game, and it's like I can't deal with it. It's rubbish. But anyway, it's a great cooler. It's a really good cooler.
Yeah. I would argue that's good for the game. You know, that extra.
No, it's good for TV ratings. It's not good for the game.
Well. Okay.
That's 2 different things. It's good for TV ratings. It's not good for the game.
What is?
Well, I don't know about that.
So yeah,
I think
it's good for the game.
We've look in all the decisions we've complained about. Cart and me, and you and Half, like all of us have complained about. But there have been times where we've sat here and said VAR got that right. They got that right. They pulled that back. So that's what we want. We just want to see that more consistently. I don't think there was any outrageous VAR decision in this game though, but you probably do. I'm assuming you do, and that's why it's a big.
My issue with VAR, which has always been with VAR, which is similar to the article that I linked in our Discord, is it was brought in to do something completely different to what it's actually doing.
Yeah.
It was what was it? Obvious and outstanding errors or something. I can't remember the phrase they used. And now it's not. It's every decision in the penalty area. It's everything in the penalty area. It's not every free kick or every throw in, but it is every little thing here or there. That's not what it was brought in for. So it should be a quick and obvious error. No, we can't spot anything that could be quick and obvious. Right, fine.
But then who decides what's clear and obvious?
That's the problem.
That opens up a
decision.
Exactly. That opens up.
Yep.
That opens up the personality of the referee and my mates in the VAR box, so I better not say anything. We can't have that, right? So I'd rather, believe it or not, I'd rather be in Cart's world where everything is you know, bang bang. Like I'd rather be in that world than one where there's so many errors.
We won't talk about United. How about the Havertz foul? Or the no call. What did you guys think of that one?
Not a pen for me. The contact for me came after the attempt for the ball. So he attempted for the ball, the defender, like Havertz, and as their legs planted, Havertz's leg came up and just hit him. I don't think Havertz dived. I don't think. I mean, he went down once he felt contact. So if you want to call that a dive, I suppose you could. But for me, it was not a penalty. There was some contact, but it was incidental, so I think it was the right call.
I agree. I think it was the right call. Agreed. I think Havertz initiated the contact.
He did what forwards do.
It.
Yeah, Harry Kane made a living out of doing that for the last 10 years.
He's done it again.
Yeah,
but I don't think that was a penalty. Right decision.
That was an overturn. They said that was a clear and obvious error by the ref, on-field ref.
Yeah. So it was because the ref gave
it was solved really quickly. It was solved really quickly.
Yeah.
And he went, "You need to go and look at the ref. You need to go and look at the monitor." And he looked at the monitor and went, "Yeah, all right, it's not a penalty." And he came out and did it. Said it's not a penalty.
No, but the only reason he was called to the VAR was because it was considered a clear and obvious error. I hope you guys, understand that. That's the part I'm trying to get at. Is that the VAR still has to decide it's clear and obvious error, right? Yeah. So the sending the ref to the I wonder how many times they've sent the ref to the VAR and he hasn't changed his call or has changed.
One in the whole of last year was one in the whole of last season. Michael Oliver did it once, was sent to a monitor and didn't change his decision.
Exactly.
All the times last season, once.
And that's my point. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that if you're gonna have VAR, call it, it's basically the VAR should be the main ref at that point, right? It shouldn't be the on-field ref. The person who has the final say should just be the VAR at that point. Because if you're going to tell the ref to look at the monitor, it means he has made a clear and obvious mistake.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
yeah, it should do.
And the on-field ref is put in a position where it's like, oh, you're bringing me to the monitor, I must have made a mistake.
Yeah.
And you could skip a whole point. You could skip a whole thing by just saying the VAR just on the screen says penalty or no penalty. Just boom. Just let.
But
that's what I'm saying. Like, if you just call it strict, you can do things like this, and it'll move the game quicker. It'll be efficient. Stuff like that.
I think the reason for that, though, is that your on-field referee throughout the history of football has been the man in charge, right?
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you are allowing the man in charge to see an error happened, whether it's his or his vision was blocked, or he saw contact, so he whistled, right? He saw it. He had a good eye line to it. He saw contact. He gave the penalty. Like, I think, I don't know that it would be, I understand what you're saying, and it wouldn't be a bad thing for VAR to say no, and they don't even have to communicate. It could just be a sound effect, whatever. Like, they don't have to be friends, is what I'm saying. They don't have to worry about upsetting a friend or any of that bollocks.
So this is,
but like, what
one
I
of my
mean,
friends says that.
What I mean is, like, he just say to, like, you're still the man in charge, right? So come have a look at this, and then the man in charge lets the pitch and the fans know this is what's happening. He's still the man in charge of the game.
So what one of my friends says is that VAR should be completely independent from the Premier League Referees Association. It should be a completely independent set of people that don't interact with referees. They're still trained as referees. They're trained as VAR refs. Mm-hmm. And that is their job. It's not Premier League referees that then go and do VAR at Stockley Park. It is a whole new group. I'd be more on board with that.
Australian guy was the VAR ref, I think, for that game, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't he?
Yeah. Jared Gillett.
Jared Gillett, that's it, yeah. So
I don't know if it's because he's not English or he's just international. not because he's not English, but because he's international. I'm in favor for that. Whatever he does, almost like, because I want to see more international refs come into the game if they're good. I want to see that.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a little bit of that,
but I still think that there needs to be that separation, because he is still a Premier League referee and he is still going to the Premier League referee meetings and outings and social events and stuff like that, and they are mates. Like, even if you don't get on with your work friends, you do still go to the work social, don't you? I do.
Yeah.
I don't. Fuck them.
But yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one, and we can talk VAR to death, but I'm sick. I'm just sick and tired of it. And that article gets all my opinions across really well. So I'll put it at the bottom of if we make this into a little clip or something about VAR, I'll link the article at the bottom of it.
We can have a bonus segment here on VAR.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Arsenal. Well-deserved victory. Barely victory.
Yeah,
Well deserved.
a good 3 points. So.
Hey there, hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider subscribing to the 91st Minute here on YouTube. Also, feel free to use the links in the description to follow us on all social media platforms.